Hi everyone, my name is Brooke, and I'm going to talk a little bit about Either Or. Either Or was the first album I ever heard by Elliott about 10 years ago. A friend sat me down on their couch and asked if I'd ever heard of him, and they played me Between the Bars. And there was this moment in time where everything sort of stops, and I'll always remember just sitting there and this voice sort of filling up the empty space in the room, and even with its simplicity of just an acoustic guitar and a voice and the words, it felt so overwhelming and powerful, and it still feels that way to this day. And when I had to run out and buy the album immediately and listen to, that's all I would listen to for weeks, is just Either Or. And I eventually moved on to other albums, but there was a time in my life where that was what I had. I mean, it was just, my life revolved around this album, and it made me feel, for one of the first times with music, that I really connected on a deep level with it. I always felt a little strange, a little out there, and on a different planet than everyone else. But this person felt like they were on my planet, and I'd been wandering around trying to find them all this time. And they understood, and all of these melodies and these thoughts and these feelings, they were all so similar and familiar, and it just felt so right, and it was just amazing to me. I just thought that I couldn't believe that something like this existed, that I have this album to enjoy the way that I do, and from start to finish, every song is just as good as the last, if not better. And it's influenced me in the way that I've thought, and the way that I write, and the way that I play music. And I mean, it was one of the reasons I ever picked up a guitar in the first place. It was all I could do was just to learn Angelus is all I wanted. And I've somehow managed to do that over many years of practice. Not as good as Elliott, but I try. Um, but it's always been something that's been able to change with me as well. From the beginning to now, I've experienced things differently, and I'll never be able to experience life as Elliott did. But in my experiences, I have felt similar, and I can see things differently and hear lyrics differently. And I won't get in specifically, just because that would take days. but but one part just is that even with Between the Bars, I didn't really understand even the title for a long time. Just because you're enjoying something and think that it's beautiful doesn't mean that you typically really are going to understand it right away. And I didn't. It took me a long time, and I still learn, and which is, I think, is incredible that I've been listening to this album for such a long time that the lyrics continue to change, and I continue to feel differently about it every year that goes by. And I wouldn't be the same person that I am without having heard that album. And it opened me up to movies that I'd never would have sought out, and making the pilgrimage out to Los Angeles to visit the Solutions Wall and write my small little message of, thanks. And I know that Elliott is probably the same for all of us in this community, in that his music has sort of saved us in a little bit, in a few ways. And I feel so privileged to be able to listen to his music and to hear words that he wanted to say, and I always admired that for him as an artist, that he he was in control of what he wanted, even if his life was out of control. He wanted his music a certain way, and I think that with Either Or, it was a way that was kind of devoid of all this extra stuff, you know. It was just sort of the bare bones, and he was showing you that even in the most minimal of situations of, you know, just with a guitar and some words, that he was still able to be this powerful presence, and he's been this presence ever since. And I hope that he continues to be, and I mean, he's never disappointed me yet, you know. I've got 3 tattoos for Elliott now. I've got, I don't know if we could see it that way. This is from that discography book that came out, I think, sometime last year. The lyrics are to Happiness, even though, you know, this is from a different album. But, and I have the Falling People from Self-Titled, and the heart, it's a figure 8, and I hope to get one from every album, actually, so next would be, I think, Either Or. But what the main thing that I'm trying to relay is that Elliott's been there for me for many years, and this is the album that started all of this madness, and I think that I've never lost my love for it. It's always been an album that I can just sit and listen to, and it always makes me feel, no matter how differently I feel about it, it always makes me feel safe, that that I have this connection with this person somewhere, at some point in some time. And it's done so much for me in my life, and I hope that everyone else feels the same a little bit, because I think that everybody should feel this sense of, well, I just don't know. It's kind of unexplainable, I suppose. But I think you all get what I'm saying, so I suppose that'll be about it. Keep listening, and I will too.